Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Bedbugs Uncovered, Identifying, Preventing, and Protecting. My name is Jennifer Wells, Project Coordinator here at the National Environmental Health Association, and I will be your host today. To begin today's webinar, I'll highlight the partnership between two organizations that made this webinar possible and provide a brief overview of each. Then I'll introduce today's speaker, who has a wonderful presentation planned for you, and we'll have a Q&A session following the presentation. As we come to the end, we'll provide a few final announcements on upcoming opportunities. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Please note that this webinar is being recorded. The recording will be uploaded onto the NEHA Vectors and Pests webinar page. You can also find upcoming webinars and recordings to previous webinars here as well. If you have any questions for our speaker during the presentation, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to submit your questions, and we will attend to them after the presentation. At the conclusion of the webinar, you'll receive a link to take part in an evaluation survey to provide feedback and comments on today's webinar. We ask that you take the time to let us know how we can continue to meet your needs as an organization. This webinar is brought to you in part through a collaboration between Gulf South Vector and NEHA through grant funding from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. Now I'll quickly share some information about both organizations. The mission at the Gulf South Vector Educational Center for Training, Outreach, and Resources, or VECTOR for short, is to forge a robust, innovative, multidisciplinary, and cooperative regional network. They aim to provide innovative training and resources to professionals and students, creating a unified workforce that enhances regional capacity to monitor and respond to vector-borne disease threats. If you want to know more about this organization, you can scan the QR code or visit their webpage at vectoroutreach.org. And the National Environmental Health Association is the professional home for people working to protect the public's health and environment. We've been around since 1937, supporting thousands of members in government, industry, and academia. Our mission is to build healthy environments, protect communities, and empower professionals through education, credentials, and advocacy. If you're not yet a NEHA member, we invite you to join our community that helps you grow, connect, and make a difference. And to learn more about enrolling in one of our nationally recognized credentials, certifications, or trainings, please visit neha.org/products. We are thrilled to invite you to NEHA's annual educational conference and exhibition, Woven Strong, the Environmental Health Tapestry, August 3rd to 6th, 2026 in Kansas City, Missouri. This year's theme embodies how every thread, our expertise, experiences, and innovations interlace to create a stronger, more resilient future in environmental public health. So at AEC 2026, you can discover the latest research and best practices from across the field, gain fresh perspectives, and leave with practical ideas you can put into action, and of course, connect with peers, mentors, and partners. So early bird registration is open now, so we encourage you to check out all of our conference offerings and register for this event. Early bird registration will close on March 25th, 2026. And before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to share the learning objectives for this webinar. After today's session, you should be able to explain how bedbugs are introduced, establish themselves, and persist across various environments, identify key signs of bedbug activity, and apply practical inspection and early detection techniques, demonstrate practical strategies for personal protections during inspections, and evaluate which control strategies are most effective in various settings. Now, I am excited to introduce and welcome our speaker for today, Dr. Aaron Ashbrook. Dr. Ashbrook is an assistant professor of Peri-Urban Entomology at Louisiana State University. He has over 13 years of experience studying and managing bedbugs in a variety of settings, and his program focuses on understanding and improving different reduced risk structural pest management strategies, including heat and fungal entomopathogens for better pest control outcomes. So with that, the floor is all yours, Dr. Ashbrook.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you all for coming today. I'm excited to talk to you all a little bit about bed bugs. And so I'm going to dive right on in and talk just what are these? Of course, bed bugs, as the name would indicate, they are in fact true bugs. They are in the order Hemiptera, and Hemiptera means half wing. Now, we'll talk a little bit about bed bugs and wings in a moment, but hemipterans in general, they include insects such as cicadas, aphids, of course, bed bugs themselves, leaf hoppers and plant hoppers, assassin bugs, kissing bugs, which of course have been in the media recently, shield bugs, stink bugs, etc. And you can see a bed bug among all of these other hemipterans here. One thing I'll point out, just a small pet peeve of mine, is that bed bugs is combined here. However, it is two different words because they are in fact true bugs. Now, hemipterans themselves, there are about 80,000 species worldwide. Now, I like to think of bed bugs as aphids of people or of vertebrates. And so now we're going to talk a little bit about what actually is a defining characteristic of bed bugs or simicids. They are in the family Simicidae. So bed bugs. This is Latin for the word, bed bugs, the scientific name is Simix lectularius. This is Latin for bug of bedroom or bug of reader. So essentially people knew back, ancient people knew that oftentimes this bed or insect was associated with your bedroom or sleeping areas, resting areas that you spent a lot of time in. In general, bed bugs are small, oval shaped and dorsoventrally flattened like a pancake. They are wingless. So unlike our other hemipterans, they do not have wings as an adult. They do have wing pads where they would have been if they could develop them. They do have a beak that is three-segmented. And the adults themselves, they are reddish brown and about the size of an apple seed as far as the body size goes. Now, the nymphs, they're smaller, they're golden brown in coloration, and they can range in size slightly smaller than that to almost a little bit bigger than a pinhead as a first instar. Now, simicids, they are a part of an exclusively parasitic hemipteran family. There are about 100 species in the family Simicidae. And one of the reasons I always like to show this photo here is because it does have, essentially it's a lineup of the common bedbug species we are most likely to encounter in our human environments. And of course, the first one is the common bedbug, Simix lectularius, which has researched on a global scale in the early 90s due to insecticide resistance development. Now, also associated with the resurgence of bedbugs is the tropical bedbug. We also saw this bedbug resurge on a wide scale, again, due to insecticide resistance. And as the name would indicate, is typically located in tropical regions. However, it has been found in Florida, it's been found in Russia, it's been found in Sweden, and so it could be possibly introduced to new areas as well. There are other simicids that will enter the indoor environment. However, these are typically associated with animals. Of course, swallow bugs, they're associated with the bird nests. And there are both eastern and western bat bugs. Of course, these are associated with those host animals. Typically what happens is the swallow or the bat, maybe the colony is either dislodged through our own actions or they naturally migrate. The swallow bugs or the bat bugs then need to find a host. They start to enter the structure in order to obtain a blood meal, and that's when we start to encounter them. One of the things that you'll notice is a lot of these different bedbug species do look somewhat similar to each other. It is important that we try to identify these species just in case they are associated with a different organism, and that can influence our management strategies. If you have any questions, if you need assistance with identification, I would be happy to assist you with that, as well as any other structural extension entomologist. Now, believe it or not, even though bed bugs, they resurged in the early 90s in the US, Bed bugs themselves have been a pest of humans for centuries. They have been commented on by Aristotle and Socrates. They have been found in fossils in ancient Egyptian pyramids. Now, this is a picture here. It is actually a wood carving of a bed bug infestation from 1568. You can see that the bed bugs were actually much larger back then, and thankfully they've gotten smaller. That's a joke. They haven't changed size, but luckily they are not this big because they'd be taking some large blood meals if they were. But to reinforce the idea that bed bugs have been a pest of humans for centuries, there was this study done by some archaeologists, and this was done in the Paisley Caves up in Oregon and Washington. Now, this cave system here is essentially has been used by humans over time as a base. Essentially, when we were nomads, we would move into the cave system when ideal weather was present. And then when weather was not ideal, we would leave and move to a more fair location. Now, when we moved into these caves, essentially the idea is that bed bugs and their ancestors were already in these cave systems feeding upon bats. Now, what we did is we dislodged those bats through the action of fire and smoke and light. And what happened, of course, is kind of as we alluded to previously, the bed bugs no longer had their host. They needed a new one. And so what happened is they climbed down from the roof of these caves where they were hanging out with the bats. They found us. They started to feed upon us. They found that it was a viable food source. They were able to reproduce successfully on humans. And then when we left that cave system, we brought the bed bugs with us in our possessions. And essentially in this study here, they went into the Paisley Cave system. They found multiple bedbug fossils. I believe between 5,000 and 9,000 years old. And 3 of these species were identifiable. One of them was actually the modern Western bat bug. So this just reinforces the idea that we acquired bed bugs as a pest from bats, and they were originally in cave systems. That's where they evolved, most likely. So what are the conducive conditions for bed bugs? Essentially, it's us. It's a host. That's really all they need. They need a host and a place to hang out. This could be, for example, chickens. So bed bugs are quite problematic in poultry houses and in poultry production. They can feed on rodents. We just alluded to the fact that they can feed on bats. They can feed on some other birds. In some studies, they have found that bed bugs will feed on cats. So they have found a blood meal that was a cat. And essentially, they just need to be able to feed and relax. They like high turnover locations in that areas where people may sit there for a period of time and then move on, or maybe they move in for a few days, like a hotel, and then they leave. And so those are areas where we tend to have a lot more bed bugs to be prevalent because people aren't spending a lot of time there, but they're spending enough to acquire the bed bugs and move on. And so essentially, because they're not spending a lot of time there, it's not being alerted. They're not reporting it in that instance. So bed bugs do not care about filthy conditions. They are not associated with filth in any way. They just want a blood meal. They want food, they want warmth, and they want a place to rest and hide. Typically, they harbor in areas nearby the host and where we spend a lot of time: beds, couches, tables, chairs, etc. So where do these bed bugs come from? Believe it or not, bed bugs, they're coming from other people, but they did not send them to you. They did not intentionally give them to you. They require a host. And so typically where we are getting bed bugs is through the passive acquisition of the insect itself via hitchhiking. And this can occur through acquiring an infested item, whether that you acquired a secondhand item, you pick something up, or maybe your neighbor has them and they spread to you from your adjacent apartment or nearby apartment. Now, bed bugs themselves, they're using the typical stimuli that blood-feeding insects use to locate a host. So essentially long range, they're using CO2. They will then use vision As they get closer, they're going to start to detect odorants, use heat as well as taste to finalize a location to obtain a blood meal. And it's not uncommon for a bed bug to bite in multiple locations before they can actually successfully feed. So you may have multiple bites, but only one bed bug in a situation. And so you might be asking yourself, Aaron, how do we know that bed bugs actually came from humans? So they came from somebody else. Well, I got an answer for you. There was this really nice study done by Dr. Warren Booth at Virginia Tech. And the premise here is that we know that insecticide resistance is widespread in bed bugs associated with human populations. Again, that's one of the reasons why they researched on a global scale, why they became a pest. And so Dr. Booth, he thought that we could use resistance genes, in this case, KDR or knockdown resistance, which is the type of resistance that helps bed bugs survive when they're exposed to pyrethroids. And this is a common mode of pyrethroid resistance among other insects as well. And so Warren thought that you could use KDR to track the spread of bed bugs. And so essentially what they did is they collected bedbug populations from both human infestations as well as bat populations and looked to see if there was gene flow occurring between these two different populations. And so essentially what I wanted to show you here in this graph is you can see on the left the human-associated populations of bedbugs, and on the right, the blue color, is the bat-associated populations. And essentially, the distance between these clusters is indicative of genetic variation or genetic distance. And so essentially, they found that there is actually limited gene flow between these bat populations and our human populations of bedbugs. This suggests that perhaps even these two populations are diverging. Maybe they are becoming new species. Perhaps in the future, we will have a human-only associated bedbug because of the differences in gene flow between these two populations. I will say, though, however, of course, they're still able to crossbreed. However, this reinforces the idea that bats were the ancestral host of humans, and there have been other studies that have reinforced this as well. So, the passive movement of bed bugs, they're hitchhiking. They do actively like to ride around on our stuff. And how do they do that? There is another good study here done by Hentley et al., essentially looking at bed bugs' preference to aggregate to dirty clothes. And so what they did in this study is they had 4 volunteers wear clean cotton clothes for 3 hours. They did not exercise. They just did normal activities during that 3-hour period. Then afterwards, they would take those contaminated clothes, they would put them in bags, and then they would put them in an actual room. In that room, they released 10 bed bugs. And in the room, they would either have carbon dioxide or no carbon dioxide. And of course, that is indicative of a human respiring or exhaling. And they found that, unsurprisingly, as you can see in this image on the right, that bed bugs tended to aggregate in much higher amounts on the dirty clothes compared to the clean clothes. And if there was a human present in the room, they were more, or CO2 representing a human, that those bed bugs were more likely to locate that item that was contaminated with human odorants and then be able to be subsequently moved through hitchhiking. So in this study, they're essentially providing a mechanism for passive dispersal of bed bugs. They're attracted to our odorants. But what we did not know early on in the bedbug resurgence is that bedbugs do actively crawl around in search for a blood meal quite often. And so there have been 2 different mark release recapture studies with bedbugs. The first one was done at University of Kentucky. The one I'm going to talk to you about now was done at University of Rutgers University. Essentially what they did is they went into different apartments. They would collect bed bugs, you can see over here on the left, and they put a little daub of paint on them. It could be red, yellow, orange, white, or green. Then in these apartments, they would put out these climb-up interceptors, these pitfall-style traps that bed bugs climb into, and then they slip inside and they get stuck. They can't climb out because there's no surfaces that they can get traction on. And so they put all these interceptors out in this apartment. So you can see in this picture here, these little circles are the locations where they put climb up interceptors into this apartment. And then the colored locations are where they released the bed bugs. And essentially, they just look to see where the bed bugs went over time. So within 24 hours, you can see this here, that they were finding bed bugs in other rooms in that same apartment. So bed bugs do actively crawl around looking for a blood meal. They continued this study. Now at 14 days, they returned to check for bed bugs. And essentially what you see here is that the room has become homogeneous. Bed bugs that were once in the bedroom are now in the living room or in the bathroom. As this study progressed, and I want to point out to you right here, this is the doorway, this little orange line. So they actually found bed bug outside of the door. It was crawling out from underneath the door and going to an adjacent unit. As the study progressed, they found bed bugs down the hallway from this treated room, from the painted initiated room, as well as in adjacent units. And so what this indicated is bed bugs will disperse in order to find a blood meal, but it also pointed out that we need to be doing wider inspections of bed bug infestations in structures. So say you're focusing in on one apartment where somebody has reported that they had bed bugs. It's very possible, but that other apartments nearby could also have bed bugs, but are just not being reported. And so you want to be able to check those so that you're efficiently using your time when you're implementing management strategies. You don't want to be in a situation, what I call bed bug whack-a-mole, where you're in one room, you're managing bed bugs, you get rid of them, and then you find out just a little bit later that the room down the hall also has bed bugs, or the adjacent room does. You're starting to work in that room, and then maybe a few weeks go by, the unit that you just cleared of bed bugs has them now. So we want to try to avoid those situations, and having a more widespread inspection will help with that. So how did these bed bugs get here in a commercial property? And why we want to be thinking about this in particular is oftentimes people do not sleep in commercial properties. I mean, yes, a hotel, they would, but people are not spending time, long periods of time in a movie theater or a medical office. And so what this indicates is that likely the bed bugs were brought to this location, to this setting, by a guest or an employee. Not saying that's 100% true, but most likely that is the scenario, given that people are not sleeping there or sleeping there for long periods of time. Now, neighboring areas for bed bugs could be, they could be spreading from chair to chair, from apartment to apartment, office unit to office unit, cubicle to cubicle, or be reintroduced from that initial location. In a commercial property, you have potentially more areas to inspect. Given the complexity of the environment, there could be a lot of human resting locations, a lot of offices, a lot of desks that we need to look at. Now, oftentimes, commercial properties, they're really concerned with public scrutiny. And so when they do find that bed bugs are present, they usually respond quickly because they don't want to have any negative ratings associated with it. Obviously, they want to try to keep it private. They don't necessarily want to talk about it. And I'll mention that I did some work in a poultry farm that had a major bed bug infestation. And the farm managers, they were bed bugs, did not want us to call them bed bugs. They wanted us to call them chicken bugs so that it wouldn't scare the workers. Also, of course, this can incur financial losses as well. Through the management, through the loss of rooms that you're renting out. Maybe you're not able to do business in that location because of the presence of bed bugs. And in some instances, you might have to consider treating an off-site location as well, in addition to the location where the bugs are. Say, for example, it's an office or a school. You have somebody who's coming in with the bed bugs and introducing them. you can get rid of the bugs in the office, but they're going to continue to reintroduce them unless you're getting rid of them at that home location. And the same idea goes for schools. If you have a kid that keeps coming into the school that has bed bugs on them or in their stuff, they send the kid home, the kid misses school, then the kid is missing school, they're not getting educated, but we're not helping them resolve the issue. We're just sending them back home. And really, we need to be treating off-site locations in these instances. And we're actually trying to, instead of sending kids home, we're trying to resolve those issues, get the kids clean pair of clothes, clean equipment or bags, and back to classroom rather than sending them home. So residential properties, how did they get to your house? Well, unfortunately, most likely, if it's a single family home, you brought that bed bug with you, maybe a family member, or you had a guest come over with bed bugs. That does happen from time to time. Or again, you acquired an infested item and brought it with you. And so if you're finding bed bugs in your house, you should ask yourself, did I travel recently and to where? I'll give you an example. One of my brothers went to a wedding, went to a hotel, got bed bugs, came back home, had a small introduction, got rid of them pretty quickly, but it was a travel related case. And oftentimes, right around end of school periods, where people are going on vacation and traveling, we tend to get a lot more bed bug calls because people are either acquired them during travel or they're nervous that they acquired them during travel and they're looking for some information about what they can do. Now, if you're in an apartment, it could be possible that you brought the bed bugs with you or it was introduced from a neighboring unit. So like we said, bed bugs, they will travel. They can use electrical ports. They can use piping to travel. They can use wiring, etc., to move from unit to unit. So they will use those shared infrastructures to spread infestations. And that really does happen quite often. And I do have plenty of photos of bed bugs in electrical outlets. So what are the signs of a bed bug infestation? Essentially, what we're looking for are these, are the caskins or molts. So in order for an insect to grow, they shed their exoskeleton. A bed bug has to obtain at least one blood meal to molt to the next life stage. And adults must also obtain blood meals to reproduce. So every time they molt, they're going to leave one of these behind. They are golden in coloration. They're going to fly around on the air when they're disturbed. They are statically charged. In some instances, the first instar nymphs, the very itty bitties, can fly on these exoskeletons, these caskins, and then they can transport that way. But again, it's only the very small bed bugs that can do that. Fecal stains. The bed bugs defecate partially digested blood. It's one of the common signs of their presence. It's dark brownish red. And if you get it wet, it will run a brownish red color. And that's how you know it's bed bug fecal stains and not something else, not marker or pen or food debris. Unsurprisingly, you will be finding live and dead bed bugs in an infestation as well. It's a sign. Sometimes you go into a room, they're out there on a blanket, just like they were right here. When you're finding bed bugs easily, that likely indicates that the infestation is somewhat large. You can also see bed bug eggs. They are pearly white, bean-shaped, and again, about the size of a pinhead. They are visible to the naked eye. Bed bugs do have a diagnostic smell in their alarm pheromones. It's described as sweet death. You can see some other descriptions here on in the right in the image. They have some walnuts, I think, raspberries, cherries, and cilantro. I just think it smells nasty. It smells like a nasty stink bug. It is different than a stink bug, but it smells kind of like a nasty stink bug in general. But it is very distinct and different from other insects. And of course, humans can also leave behind bedbug signs. I went into this room. I knew that there was a problem. Essentially, the individual was taking bedbugs off their body and smushing them against the wall. I lifted up the bed, and there you go. Tons of bedbugs. The caskins flew around. on the floor, like little dust bunnies. You can see piles of dust on the floor as well. We don't want to apply insecticidal dust that heavily. So again, when you have bed bug problems that are high in numbers, they're easy to find. It's those low numbers that are hard to find. It's those low numbers that are hard to get rid of. You can knock down a population for by 90 to 95%, but the ones that are hard to find are the ones that are going to be difficult to get rid of. So now to talk a little bit about bed bug inspections and their management. So visual inspections are the most commonly used method for finding bed bugs. There are others, but this is usually what people will be implementing. And essentially, you want to be having a strong flashlight, whether that be a headlight or a hand light, because, of course, you might be moving things around with your hands, and so having a headlight will be helpful for that. You do want to wear gloves, just in case, you stick your hand in something. It could be sharp. Sometimes there's stuff on the bed that you don't want, and so it's important to be interacting with. So make sure you're wearing gloves. Also, from a safety perspective, there could be things as well. So again, wear gloves. You need to wear or use a screwdriver to disassemble things just in case. Now, if a bed bug can fit in a crack or crevice the size of a credit card, and so you may need to use that screwdriver, whether a flathead or a Phillips head, to disassemble something to see if there are bed bugs on the inside. What's really important is that you talk with your resident, because you want to be asking them where they sleep. Bed bugs is a bad name because they're going to be at a location that the person spends a lot of time in. If the person sleeps on the couch, if they sleep in a chair, the bed bugs are going to be in that couch or chair. And if you go in there thinking that it's going to be the bed only, you're going to be spending a lot of time and effort that is going to be wasted for management. You want to conduct a complete inspection in the home or the apartment in order to find those bed bug harboring locations. You want to take records of where you're finding them and numbers, so that when you follow up, you have an idea of how successful your management program is and if bed bugs are being transported to other locations. So bed bug cryptic behaviors, they do like to stay hidden. So they like to be in contact with tight spaces. This is thigmotaxis, so they have positive thigmotaxis. They are nocturnal, but not always. They will adjust their feeding cycle depending on the presence of the human. They're a night worker, they'll feed during the day. And really what they're trying to get at when they're feeding at night is to feed on the person when they're in REM sleep. Because when you're in REM sleep, you're not going to react to a bite. You're not going to get up. You're not going to crush that insect. You're essentially susceptible to them at that point. But if they were to feed outside of that time, you could feel the bite, wake up, respond, crush the insect. Remember, bed bugs evolved in caves, and they actually like to orient to tall objects. So this is a place I was helping out with the bed bug infestation. This is a cabinet here on the left. You can see the fecal stains of the bed bugs, the eggs. You see a live bug right there. And if you continue up to the ceiling, you can actually see an aggregation of bed bugs up high as well. So again, if we're not conducting a thorough inspection, we're not looking up, we're not looking at other locations, we're going to miss bed bugs, and then they're going to reinfest those locations afterwards. And there's been plenty of times where I have missed locations too. I pointed out the upper location to you, but here's another one that I missed. This is a bed spring. And I thought we were doing everything right in this location. We had climb up traps, we had mattress encasements, we were using integrated pest management, vacuuming, using insecticides, but we kept coming back and there were bed bugs. And the reason why is because they're hiding out in these box springs, or the springs of the bed frame itself. And so once we found them, we treated them, and then that helped resolve the issue. So some of the PPE you want to be wearing for a bed bug inspection, you want to be wearing booties, these anti-slip booties. So when I have gotten bed bugs on me in the field, they've been on my feet. And remember, we were talking about human odorants. Remember how they're attracted to human odorants? I have very stinky feet. And so it's not surprising that they're going on my feet. And so that's an easy way to protect yourself, is to wear the booties. You can also get Tyvek suits. This is another more common strategy to protect yourself. You go in the home, you put the suit on, you go outside of the home, you take the suit off, you throw it away. Gloves, that's an obvious one. We talked about that earlier. And then this is a strategy that we used to do often when I was in grad school is we'd wear a change of clothes in the field and a different pair of shoes. And then when we were done with the field work, we would just bag the clothes, bag the shoes, put the stuff in the freezer. And then when we were essentially going back out, we would put those clothes back on and repeat the cycle. And then when we were done with the project, we would wash the clothes, or if the clothes got too dirty, we'd wash them. So your monitoring tools. We've talked a little bit about visual inspections. We're not going to find all of the bed bugs using visual inspections. So you do want to monitor as well. Pitfall style traps, like we said, they're very good for low-level bed bug detection as well. They can protect furniture as the bugs try to move on and off the furniture. They can get caught, and so you're helping in that way as well. It allows you to evaluate the success of your control program. So if you're not monitoring, how do you know you've gotten rid of the bed bugs or any pests in general? You really don't. And so that's why it's really important to be using pitfall traps or some kind of monitoring technique to then clear the room of bed bugs, ideally, and you know that your management has worked. Now, what's really important with these pitfall style traps is that the furniture is off the walls, because if you're creating a bridge that the bug can use to avoid the trap, then of course they're going to avoid the trap and then they're going to get it on the bed and the infestation will continue. There are canine inspection dogs in Louisiana. There are not any of them, but this may vary by location. I know, for example, they're very common in Las Vegas. They will use them for truthing bedbug claims as well, because there's a potential loss with rooms and having to treat the rooms. Bedbug dogs do really well in multifamily housing situations where you have a lot of apartments or offices, a lot of locations that you have to inspect. And so the dogs can really help narrow down the amount of rooms or areas that you have to follow up on. Now, the dogs themselves have gotten better. They have different pheromones that are available and a very good training program for them. Initially, when they first started to use them, they weren't, there was some skepticism, but they've definitely gotten better since then. Now, I'll give you essentially a little bit of what an IPM program looks like for bed bugs, at least for me. You do your initial inspection, you use your non-chemical tools, you use your insecticide applicator, you apply insecticides, you wait 10 to 14 days, the eggs will hatch, bed bugs will move around, and then you follow up, you retreat. And then if you're in a long-term management situation, you want to apply a different active ingredient every month. Okay, so let's look at some of our non-chemical tools now. We have mattress encasements, vacuuming, heat, as well as cold. So mattress encasements, essentially what this is a big fabric cover for your mattress. What it does is it contains bed bugs on the inside of that mattress encasement. It makes them easier to find after you do subsequent inspection and management. Typically, you need to combine these with the pitfall style traps. Otherwise, you end up in a situation like this right here, where the bed bugs just reinfested the mattress encasement. And so it was no good. It wasn't helping us with management. And another thing that's important is you do not remove the mattress cover, because on the inside, you have a whole bunch of hungry bed bugs. And so you just let all your hungry bed bugs go to free roam and probably find a blood meal and reestablish the infestation. Vacuuming is also critical for bed bug management. It is probably the #1 most underrated tool for eliminating bed bugs. I tell people if you want to improve your bed bug management, this is what you need to be doing, is integrating vacuuming. HEPA filters, you can use this little handheld deal here on the left, or the backpack one. I like the backpack one because your hands are free, a little bit more free to move around. What is important is that you take the bag out afterwards and put it in the freezer for 24 hours. It will kill most of the bed bugs, but it won't kill all of them. And also, I'm not talking about vacuuming up like single bugs. you want to hit the heavy areas with the vacuum, and then you can use other management strategies after. Heat can be used for bedbug management in a few different ways. There's the topical application of steam to furniture, using carpet steamers or fabric steamers. Now, these steamers do not work well on leather, so don't use leather to steam, especially if they have bedbugs. It's not going to penetrate to those insects. You also want to use a wide mouth steamer, not a narrow mouth, because you're going to propel your bedbugs across the room otherwise. However, if you want to get revenge on your bedbugs, the most satisfying way is to use the steamer because they pop and they crack and they explode. You can smell the alarm pheromones. It's fantastic if you want to pay them back for biting you. There are, of course, heated containers, as you can see down here. Essentially, you put the infested item on the inside of that container, you heat it, and it kills any bed bugs that are on the outside or the inside if you heat it for long enough. Then there is whole unit heating, where temperatures are increased for 6 to 8 hours to bed bug lethal temperatures. It's essentially using heat as a fumigant. But what I really want to emphasize is, like, when you're using heat treatments in a large scale, it's like cooking a turkey. You don't get up to 130 degrees on the oven and say, I'm done. You got to get 130 degrees on the inside into the bedbug harboring locations. And the same thing goes for a turkey, right? That turkey is going to be frozen on the inside when the temperature is reached initially. And so you really got to get that heat into those locations that the bedbugs are residing in. And really, this is just emphasizing that getting that lethal temperature and maintaining that lethal temperature for a sufficient amount of time is really critical for the success of using heat for bedbugs. Cold has been used for bedbugs. There is this cryonite rifle system. Essentially, it produces dry ice and freezes the bedbugs. We tried to use this in the poultry barn, and it did not work because it was too hot. So I would be very careful before you invest in this system. What I would suggest is that you can bag sensitive items instead and put it in the freezer for about 2 days. You'll kill any bed bugs that are there. This works good for books and other things as well. So we've used our non-chemical tools. Now we're going to apply insecticides. Of course, we're going to be following label directions. And what's really important is that we're going to be applying the insecticide as much as possible directly to the insects. You want to apply it to the cracks and crevices that the bugs are residing in, the bed frame, baseboards, mattress folds, as well as between the mattress and box spring, areas that are dictated by the label for bed bug management. Now, as far as insecticides go, modes of action, we do not have a lot for bed bugs. Pyrethroids, neonicotinoids, as well as chlorphenapyr, which is in the pyrrole class. We do have a lot of combination products that contain both pyrethroids, neonicotinoids, as well as a synergist. And there are aerosols as well as foams. And foams do have some advantages over traditional sprays, which I'll show you soon. Now, what's important is that you do not use insect growth regulators for bed bugs. They have been shown to be ineffective. As you can see from this study right here, this was done at the University of Kentucky. Essentially, they used 2x and 3x the label rate of Gentrol, and these female bed bugs were still able to lay eggs. They were not impacted. So save your product, save your money. Don't use IGRs for bed bugs.
Dr. Ashbrook, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to say a couple minutes so we have enough time for questions.
Yes, I'm almost done. Thank you.
Perfect.
IPM with foams. Now, foams have the advantage that it's going to be filling this void right here in that spring that I talked about earlier. Now, if you use a traditional spray insecticide, it would just shoot right through that hole. And so that foam expands in there and it kills all of those bugs. Now, also on this underside of the bed, you can see that the foam is sticking to where the bed bugs were or where they are. And so if you were using a traditional spray, you spray that bed with liquid, you then put it back down, that insecticide can drip off the bed. This product is now sticking on that surface and killing those insects for more action there. Now, another product, Apprehend. This is a biopesticide for bed bugs. It uses a special sprayer. It is a fungal entomopathogen that is effective for bed bugs. I have not seen a a field study for it, but I have used it in the lab and it did kill the bed bugs pretty well. Now, what is different about this product is that it can be applied quarterly as a preventative. It is a living organism. You don't want to leave it in your truck or your vehicle. You don't want to expose the to temperature extremes. And again, you have to use their special sprayer. It is applied as a barrier around areas rather than just some of those locations we talked about. Now, silicates or silica dusts, these do work great for bed bugs. What is important, though, is that you use silica dusts and silica gels and not diatomaceous earth. And that's because, as you can see in this image here on the right, that diatomaceous earth is just not as effective against bed bugs as our silica dusts. You want to use thin layers of the material, and it can be applied to gaps in the floorboards as well as baseboards. And so, in summary, that was essentially what our bedbug IPM program would look like. Again, I'm just showing you what those steps are. And that is the end of what I have for the presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that great presentation, Dr. Ashbrook.
Yes.
We'll now move to the Q&A portion. So as a reminder, if you have any questions for our speaker, please submit them through the Q&A function, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. We have quite a few questions that we've received already, so we'll try to get through as many as we can. So to start off with, how does the bug know you are in REM sleep?
That is a good question. I am not particularly sure that the bed bug knows that you are in REM sleep. It is just when they are most active. So there was a study conducted to see when bed bugs were most active, and they found them to be most active in that 3 to 6 p.m. period of time. And that's oftentimes when people are most likely in the REM sleep cycle.
Right. All right. And then are humans the only host for bed bugs?
No, humans are not the only host for bed bugs. They do, of course, pretty well on us. There's a lot of us as well, so that's helpful for them. They feed on bats, they feed on chickens, they'll feed on different birds. There was a study that found that they fed on a cat. They will feed on rats and mice. I have heard of an infestation that they found them feeding on mice.
All right. And then we have a question asking, are there any benefits to bed bugs? They want a reason not to hate them.
So I am not aware of a benefit of a bed bug. As far as I know, there is not any. Maybe they are food for some organism. There has been some implications, I think, wood scorpions. I think wood scorpions. There are some occasional invader insects that have been implicated in eating bed bugs. I know that rodents actually will bite back. If they are being attacked by bed bugs, they'll feed upon them. But as far as an overall benefit, I am not aware of one at this time.
Okay. And then do you consider a bug bed infestation a public health issue or simply just a nuisance?
Yes, I do consider bed bugs a public health issue. They are a medical pest. They do not transmit diseases, but because of their ability to feed upon blood, our bite reactions that we have to them, we have those itchy raised welts, irritated skin. In some instances, they can induce anaphylaxis. So we do consider them a medical pest and of medical importance.
Got it. And so we have a next question. If we receive a complaint to investigate a bed bug in a hotel, how can we protect ourselves from carrying them home? Should inspectors spray their clothing to repel bed bugs?
Oh, that's a good question. So the question is, how do you protect yourself from bed bugs when you're doing an inspection? So that was one that I didn't mention was DEET. So DEET is in fact repellent to bed bugs. I'm sorry I didn't do that. But the booties, you can get those Tyvek little booties, as well as the Tyvek suit. Those are some good options to wear when you're going in to do an inspection. And then you can just take that off and dispose of it afterwards. Those disposable suits.
So is there a UV flashlight that can be used to see them? And if so, how reliable is that method?
That's a good question. I am not sure if bedbug fecal material does react to UV. I'll have to look into that myself. I do know that rodent urine, for example, does. I know that fly spots do as well. So I wouldn't be completely surprised if bedbug fecal material does have some type of light spectrum that it gives off once you hit it with a UV light, but I'm not entirely sure. It's a good question. I'll have to look into that.
Okay. So when at hotels, what is the best advice to avoid them from hitchhiking with us?
Okay. So the best advice to avoid hitchhiking with bedbugs, what I would say is when you first walk into the room, you take your luggage, your all of your possessions, your backpack, whatever you have, and you put it in the bathtub. And the reason why you put it in the bathtub is, remember, smooth surfaces. That should be a smooth surface in theory, and nothing for the bed bugs to be climbing on, and so that should be a safe space. While you then go in and inspect the room for the presence of bugs. So you then look for bugs on the bedstand, underneath the bed frame, the headboard, the bed itself, blankets. And again, you're going to be looking for those bed bug signs. One time I went into a hotel and I was like, there's got to be bed bugs here. And then I even found a little part of a leg, but I didn't find any bed bugs. So you'd be surprised.
All right. So have there been any studies on whether or not an increase in bed bug infestations occur in towns where backyard chicken coops are allowed?
That is a good question. If there's been any implications with backyard chickens, I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of. Typically, bed bugs are more common in areas where there's a lot of people. And interestingly, they tend to be more common in colder parts of the country where people spend more time indoors.
Interesting. So in the example that you went over, did they explore why bed bugs were not found in the kitchen?
So that's a good question. I imagine why they weren't finding a lot of bed bugs in the kitchen is because people probably don't sit there a lot. I mean, you could sit there and eat, but you're probably not sitting there for the same amount of time that you would say in the TV or in front of the TV in the living room or in your bedroom.
Okay. So we have a submission. They say, I thought mattress covers were meant to protect mattresses from an infestation. However, you mentioned bed bugs being inside the mattress cover, being hungry. Could you go into detail about the proper or different uses of mattress covers?
Yes, that's a good question. So with mattress covers, essentially what you're doing is the mattress is already infested. There's bed bugs there, and the mattress itself is difficult to treat. Some products you can't even put on certain surfaces of the mattress. You might not be able to treat that laying surface. So you just get that bite proof. That's an important thing too. You get the bite proof mattress encasement. You just cover it up. That contains all of the bed bugs on the inside. Then, if the mattress is then subsequently infested, there's no folds that are available for those bed bugs to hide in, so they're exposed, and you can see them more easily. Now, as far as the bed bugs on the inside, you are starving them out. You're not relying on the product to kill them. You could be using steam. You could put the mattress encasement on and then steam it afterwards. That would kill all the bed bugs on the inside. But the mattress encasement itself isn't killing the bugs. You're more starving them out and providing some general protection.
Okay. Someone is asking, so when environmental health does not have authority to issue citations or enforce treatment for bed bugs, hotels and motels can still be compelled to take action through education, documentation, referrals, and regulatory leverage. How do we get this issue taken care of when it seems to be an issue in our town?
So is this with a hotel or with a person? I'm sorry.
Um, just the hotel.
Okay. So often there is a website called Bedbug Registry that people will report things on. I assume that if you were to make light of the issue, that they would respond from the PR perspective that it would um, implicate. Now, often I have been told that if you go, so you have peace of mind, you're supposed to have peace of mind in your hotel room. The same thing goes for an apartment. When you're renting in an apartment, you're supposed to be comfortable in your apartment. And so when you go into that hotel room and you find that there are bed bugs there, that place is not suitable for you to be in. And so you can go and demand a new room from them.
Okay. The next one is a clarifying question. So, are bat bugs, tropical bed bugs, swallow bugs, etc., entirely different species, or are they subspecies?
Good question. They are different species.
Okay.
Um,
So go
I
ahead.
wanted to see if you could crossbreed tropical bed bugs and common bed bugs for like a heat study, a heat resistant study, but apparently they're not compatible. So
Okay. And then any resource recommendations to assist with identifying the types of bed bugs, assuming that it might be hard to identify physical characteristics without magnification.
yes, you're definitely going to need some assistance with magnification. So that'll be one. But as far as texts go, it's Usinger, the Usinger book, the monograph of Semicidae, that has a lot of the bedbug identifying characteristics. That has descriptions, drawings in some instances. Um, it might be a little bit difficult to get. There are other content, extension content online that might just cover the simple or the more commonly encountered species, bat bugs versus swallow bugs versus bed bugs. Now, if you want to differentiate tropical bugs versus bat bugs, or sorry, the common bed bug, it's actually the pronotum. So the area behind the head is more narrow relative to the width of the eye compared to the common bed bug. So some of those characters are a little tricky when it comes to differentiating them. Now, one thing that is different from the tropical bed bug and the common bed bug is that the tropical bug is a better climber than the common bed bug. So if you find bed bugs that are climbing out of interceptor traps, that could be a tropical bed bug. In which case, please call me so that we can become famous.
All right. So we have our last question here. We have time for one more. Do bedbug ultrasonic devices work as a deterrent?
No. It's funny because I actually talked about this earlier today. Those ultrasonic devices do not work at all. And it was funny because when I first talked, I mentioned this, somebody responded to me and they said, yeah, they work. They work because you buy it, they get your money, and then you have to go buy something else afterwards.
Okay, all right. So thank you again so much, Dr. Ashbrook, for that great presentation and for answering so many questions.
Of course.
So some of the questions we didn't get to today, Dr. Ashbrook has graciously agreed to answer afterwards. And so in our webinar follow-up email, we'll include a document with all of those answers. We'll also include a copy of the presentation slides for your reference, as well as the link to this recording. So before we sign off, there is a second part to this bedbug webinar series coming up in a few weeks. The second part, Evolving Tools for Bedbug Control, Technology, Treatment, and Sustainability, will be held on February 17th, and Dr. Ashbrook will delve deeper and explore the latest advances in bedbug control, like new insecticides, detection methods, and integrated management strategies. So we invite you to register using the link in the chat, and we hope to see you there in a couple weeks. And finally, NEHA's mission to advance environmental health is made stronger through the support of our community. Contributions help us provide scholarships, support critical research, and expand training opportunities for the professionals who protect our communities every day. So if you're interested in supporting this work, we invite you to learn more about how your gift can ensure health professionals have the resources they need to meet today's challenges and tomorrow's opportunities. So thank you so much again for joining us today and for everything you do to champion environmental public health. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining us.